can't quite pinpoint when exactly it was I began to discover music, or I began to love. I've always loved music. For as long as I've known me, I've always loved music. Growing up as a kid, I used to hold like impromptu concerts in front of my block. Like I would, bang on like the barrels my mom would use to store water and things like that, just to make music. And I'd gather the kids in the neighborhood and I'd sing and rap and, put up a one-man act. And it was just amazing. We'd have a great time, in the evenings and stuff. So I think I'd been expressing music as early as say 6, 7, 8, thereabout. So I mean, that was pretty much how I came into music. I don't know if I found music, I like to believe that music found me, because I've known music for as long as I've known, my own conscious existence. I went on to study law, even though I had interest in music, for a number of reasons. One of them was my father had told me that I would be his lawyer, and I liked that very much. I think I also went on to study law because there was a time in my life when everything was relative and everything could be argued based on the law, that applied. And I found that fascinating. I mean, just, the prestige associated with, law, the legal luminary. I decided I was going to go and study law. And I thought I'd make a good case any day, but I'd handle the case, fairly well. I never really left music. Even though I was a law student, I was always going out and doing gigs and going out for studio sessions and, just being my creative self. I made music in my room, all the time. I had music softwares on my computer, my computer that was primarily meant for reading. I had music software on it, and stuff. So I was always creating music. I was always in that zone, in that space, in that process. And then, of course, we used to, a couple of friends of mine and myself used to, I wouldn't say run, because they were running it before I got there, but we used to work out of a place called the Green Lab, a small studio somewhere in Unilag. And it was just a place. And I felt at home, in my elements. It was a special place for me, you know what I mean? It was my high. And so it was easy for me to, when I made up my mind that I didn't want to be doing litigations and I wasn't in the wig and gown business, to just sort of step out and step fully into music, because I never left music. And by the time I decided to opt out of law and pursue music fully, I had done a number of singles that had done quite well. I had done Catch Cold for Maintain at about that time. I had done Faze Alone for Faze and a couple other tracks. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd done Ego for Djinee. And I was like, you know what? This is where you should be. I knew that my heart was in the right place. My heart and my head were both in the right place at the right time. Asha's project for me was a project of sweat, blood, and tears, and a project with a happy ever after ending, because we had only hoped, that it would turn out right. Well, we believed that it would turn out right, but trying to create music of that caliber, that kind of sound, at a time when mainstream commercial music, and it still is so, even as we speak, is the order of the day. You don't get much encouragement, from hearing the stuff that everyone's doing, as opposed to what you're creating. And so you're holding on to, just your dream and just, your desire to create something that in itself, in a sense, is excellent, is, defying the standards, is new, is artistic, is, you're not compromising in terms of your artistic values, what matters to you, musically and all that. And I think that, that's the strength of the success of that project, the fact that we really wanted to create, genuine music, such that even when it started, we were in a situation that was not favorable for either of us, because where we worked at the time, was not necessarily the best place to be. Nonetheless, it was an avenue to express, and an opportunity to express, to create and to express music. So we took advantage of it nonetheless. And for about a year, we worked on what would later become, some of the key materials for the album that was eventually released in 2007. So it was a very, very interesting experience. It was a time of lack. It was a time of hoping, it was a time of, big dreams, and just watching them come to fruition, slowly but surely. I produce good music. I produce real music. I produce music that has artistic value. I produce music that's rich in content and character. I produce music that makes me happy, music that makes other people happy. I produce music that is different, that may not necessarily always be mainstream, it may not necessarily always be popular music. Music that can have popular elements sometimes, but music that is true in the sense of creativity and being a music or an artistic creator. I produce music that's academic in a sense, but music that's also free. Music that is for music lovers, but that is not insensitive to people who just want to have a good time. I may not have a certain measure of, in-depth appreciation of music. So I produce music, in general, because I've listened to a wide spectrum of music, and I can produce, just about anything because of, how much detail I've managed to internalize of, that specific genre of music. So, I produce music would be the best way to put it. If it's music, I make it.
From your alabaster box, singing, bless ye the Lord. Through my trials and all my troubles, I have come with a heart of worship for the gift of your Son.
I enjoy, the creative process. I enjoy, just, the artistic process of creating music, sitting in the studio, having a good time, just having drinks and having something to nibble on and talking about everything else other than the music that you're creating, and then just letting music come to you naturally. I enjoy that I'm in that place where I can influence, where I can contribute, where I have a say, because the mic is in my hand. I enjoy the fact that I can be a blessing to people, the fact that lives are touched, more spiritually speaking, because of the kind of music I create. I enjoy the fact that I can share my faith, through my music. And so many other things. I would probably have a book, the size of this room if I had to tell you, for me, the things that I enjoy while I make music or in the process of creating music.
Husbands, you should love your wives. Police officers should protect our lives. But law and order have escaped right through the border. Now the men cheat on their wives.
I'm always interested in meeting people who do music for the love of the art. And so I look out for talent, not necessarily because I want to be the one to have discovered or to be in the process of finding out, discovering, the next Asha, the next Bez, or the next Adele, or the next whoever. But, I know that talent abounds in this country, and I think that it's a shame that, people who, are talented are not brought to the fore and given the kind of credit that they deserve, which is why we run a label, and part of what we do is to discover, to groom, and to expose talent. And so far, we've been successful, in our work and our walk with a number of Nigerian artists, who are, gradually coming to the fore, like Bez and Phil and Stan Ike and the likes, So for me, it's important just to go out and look for, to look for talent or to have talent come to me, but not solely for the purpose of discovering the next superstar. That just happens naturally. Because where there's talent and there's the opportunity and there's the right backing, musically and financially and everything else, and obviously there's God, the key factor, then the next superstar is born. So yes, it does end up happening. But I think my drive is just to find, just for someone deserving to just be there, to be able to express themselves and make good music.